there, this is Emily Popa, and this video is in support of Eugene Lukjanenko and his son. For privacy reasons, I'm not going to state his real name. I'm going to nickname him JJ for the purpose of this video. By creating this video, I'd like to accomplish a few things: to raise awareness, ask viewers' opinion on a few aspects, address few words to Eugene's son, and address few words to anyone that is connected to this case. Now, I'd like to use this disclaimer and to say that I'm not an attorney and I'm not going to pretend to be one. I'm not going to give advice. In fact, I'm going to ask for advice. And I would like to ask viewers for your opinion on the video game called Call of Duty. Personally, I have not played that game. I have done a lot of research online and I have come in to find a lot of things, but I really like to have your opinion on this. I have found the specific information. It's a newspaper report on this Call of Duty video game that has caused the death of 4 teenagers. All have committed suicide after playing the video game. Now, one of the boys that committed suicide was a straight-A student, and we see that even brilliant children are affected by this. For those of you that don't know about Eugene and his case, is that several years ago, when his son, who was 9.5 years old, was taken into care by Medway Council of Child Services, and while he was in the so-called care, the child was exposed to this type of a game, the Call of Duty, and he was traumatized. He was really traumatized. The judge have decided and ordered for the child to return home. However, Medway Council needed 15 more months for the child to play this kind of game, this kind of adult-rated game. This is what he was playing. So, what do you think? When the boy came home, the father took him to the doctor's offices and it was confirmed that he was traumatized. And instead of Medway Council coming forward and say, hey, you know what, we're all humans, we had a mistake, and unfortunately, yes, the boy have watched some video games that he wasn't supposed to be watching, or play some games that he wasn't supposed to be playing games, all because of someone wasn't paying attention of what exactly was going on, and the care was really not a good care. However, they turned around and blamed Eugene. For those of you that don't know, Eugene was quote unquote blamed of having inherited Holocaust trauma because Eugene's father is a Holocaust survivor of the Nazis concentration camps. The same thing, like I said in the other video, same thing, like someone will have a car accident and then 60 years later the grandchildren will have to be removed because the grandparents have had a car accident and is somehow exposure to the car accident. It makes no sense. It really makes no sense. I'm sorry. I really don't even know how to explain it. It's just nonsense. Now, I have read a lot of papers in regards with this case, and to be honest, it was like this thick stuff. Again, I'm not an attorney and I'm not going to give advice, but I think this are the 2 most important things that I have found in connection with this fact that Eugene's son is back in the care because, like I said, they blamed Eugene of having a inherited Holocaust trauma. And they're trying to find ways to blame the father, blame the child, blame anyone except themselves for their own mistakes of allowing and exposing the child to an adult-rated video game. Now, one of these papers is a report from the person who takes care of Eugene's son, and I'm just going to describe the child relationship with yourself and others in the household. So this is the person who takes care right now in the so-called care of Medway Council of Child Services. And it says, JJ has made good attachment with all in the home and with friends. He enjoys going out to play football with other young men, living with us. Apparently, this is a foster home that has teenagers. And they all get on very well. JJ is a very private young man. I really like the fact that it was stating young man, because he indeed is a 14-year-old now. I would call him a young man. So JJ is a very private young man who will answer you with one-word answers, not offering to extend conversation. Really? Well, that must be a reason for that. And I have to applaud you, JJ, for not making comments about your father, because that's exactly what they're looking for. Now, he made a comment to this person who takes care of him, and this is what the person has written down on the paragraph where it's asked, please describe the child's relationship with their birth family. JJ has not had contact with his father since being with us, although one is scheduled for sometime in May 2015 for an hour. JJ does not offer any information regarding family, but has said that he has a good relationship with his father and they do many things together. So there you have it. This is information from a person who is constantly with him, that he's not complaining about his father. In fact, the boy is stating that they have good relationship, and they did many things together. Okay, this is a very important piece of information. And another piece of information is from an employee of the Medway Council of Child Services, and I'm just going to read. JJ has had difficulties. Get this, please. JJ has had difficulties in being able or willing to say, talk, or highlight anything negative about Mr. Lukjanenko. JJ has difficulties in being able or willing to say, talk, or highlight anything negative about Mr. Lukjanenko. Nobody's perfect. Eugene is not perfect. I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. But I believe if there was something wrong that Eugene have done, this child would have stated. He has difficulties in being able or willing. So I see that they're trying to extort from the child something. They're trying to manipulate him, and I have to congratulate the boy. I have to congratulate you for being wise, being smart, and not falling for what they're trying to do. Because they're trying to get negative statements against the father, and this is all that they can do, and they are really frustrated. But get this is not done, the entire report. Continuing reading the paragraph, the same paragraph. In addition to which issues of concern have continued to be raised during contacts since the conclusion of the proceedings in 2015, all of which leave the local authority to conclude that at this point, increased contact would not be in JJ's best interest. What are they talking about? Let me read all of that again. JJ has difficulty in being able or willing to say, talk, or highlight anything negative about Mr. Lukjanenko, in addition to which issues of concern have continued to be raised during contacts since the conclusion of the proceedings in 2015, all of which leave the local authority to conclude that at this point, increased contact will not be in JJ's best interest. So he's saying nothing negative. But what happened during the contacts? Because they're saying which, in addition to which issues of concern have continued. So there's something during the contacts that continued, that they decide not to have increased contacts. So I'll tell you what happened. What happens in most of the contacts. I'm not going to be able to read all of them, but this is one of the reports, is that they are writing, believe me, every little thing. Even the fact that Eugene grabbed a water bottle and he drank from it, and how he's sitting and how he's looking and how the child is looking and breathing. Oh, everything is is written down there. You know what? I was born and raised in a communist country. When I looked at that report, there were some images in my mind that just popped up, and I'm going to add a link in the description of this video for you to kind of have an idea of what exactly the type this is. I'm telling you, it's mind-boggling. It's just very difficult. But anyway, there are two things that Eugene did that somehow he was prohibited from doing that. One thing is that he brought a letter from his father, the grandfather of the child. He brought a written letter to the boy, which he was not allowed to share it. Now, that is one thing. And the second thing is that he brought a UN Convention of Children's Rights, which I have it here. Okay. And it says, the United Nations Convention of the Rights of the Child, how legislation underpins implementation in England. And I'm going to read under the other measures, paragraph 1.18. The government has done much to raise awareness of the UNCRC. Now, I'm not going to read because it's kind of taking a long time, but the idea is that they have asked libraries to have it on display, for schools to have it, for teachers to talk about it, for people that apply for the citizenship to be aware of this, all because they want, do you hear me what I'm saying? The government wants people to be aware of UNCRCs. And there it is, the father that brings the UNCRCs, the Convention of Children's Rights, or the Rights of the Child, brings it to the meeting. And this is what they write. Eugene says, I have a UN Convention of Children's Rights. Staff again intervene and tell Eugene if he carries on, then contact will be stopped. And guess what? Contact was stopped. The child was removed. And they say, well, Eugene became annoyed and raised his voice as he says, you are breaking UN Convention. Then staff stopped contact. Staff takes the boy and take him out of the room where Eugene is following them, and he carries on with a raised voice. Can you imagine that? Was he supposed to whisper? With a raised voice, he says, you have broken UN Convention. You have broken UN Convention. And this is the reason that they do not want Eugene to come in contact with his son, because he is bringing the UN Convention, the child's rights, a copy of the child's rights, and they do not want that. I mean, honestly, in the beginning, I thought, there must be something else. There must be something wrong. There must be something that I really don't get it. But I'm reading their reports. This is what they're stating. This is what they're stating. And I have here information from a report from a judge. Now, I'm not going to state the judge's name as a respect. I'm not intimidated. As a respect, I'm just not going to state the judge's name. That have denied the access, or the father wanted to ask permission for the child to go to the Passover to celebrate it, and it was rejected. And the reason for that is, get this, the judge got this information. I'm not saying that the judge was lying. I'm just saying that the judge got this information from other people. And I'll tell you from whom. From The Guardian, which you know what's funny? They keep saying that you are not allowed, and I am not allowed to state the boy's name, but in their reports, his name is everywhere. But you know what's funny? They don't show their names. Now, the judges, I see their names, but everyone else is a caseworker, title here, title there, this is here. No, it's not saying who The Guardian is, but it's stated several times what the Guardian has said, and I believe this is coming from the Guardian, that the judge has declined for the father to have permission to take the child to the synagogue on the Passover celebration because of this. Get this. That clear that child, parenthesis, that is 13.5 years old boy, does not wish, I'm sorry, it's handwritten and I have a hard time reading it, does not wish more contact and finds his father's intense approach difficult. What was he saying? We see it that the child has had difficulties in being able or willing to say, talk, or highlight anything negative about Mr. Lukjanenko. This is real from the child. And also from the person who is taking care of him now or watches him now, is that JJ does not offer any information regarding the family, but he says that he has a good relationship with his father and they do many things together. Who's lying here? I mean, obviously, the person who was giving this information to the judge was lying. It's not right. It's a lie. This is a flat out lie. So, the boy does not wish more contact and finds his father's very intense approach difficult and embarrassing. It would not be in child's best interest suddenly to be out in the community. No. It has to be in the jail. It has to be in the jail. Yes, supervised. It has to be. The child does not want to be out in the community. You're right. Your Honor, you're straight right there. You hit the nail in the head. Exactly. The child does not want to be out in the community. No. It would not be in the child's best interest suddenly to be out in the community with his fathers in uncontrolled. So the child does not want to be uncontrolled. He likes to be controlled. Can someone tell me how many 13 and 14-year-old boys and girls want to be controlled? Do these people think that we're really that stupid? I mean, really, come on, let's face it. Uncontrolled, untested, and unknown environment, given that even in the prevent, closely secure contact is not good and raises real child wellness issues. What is the real child issues or the issues that they are concerned? What is it? It's here. It's here. That the father has said that he has the UN Convention of Children's Rights and they stopped the contact. So, of course, they're not going to allow the father to have access to the child unsupervised in the community where the father could pass on the information to the child and know that he has rights and he has the ability to demand to go home to his father. Actually, in one of the reports that I read, it was stating that it's not in the child's best interest to know his rights because it will disrupt his placement. Now, English is not my first language, but that to me sounds like once the boy learns that he has rights and he can go home, he will go home. So they don't want him to know his rights, so they don't want him to go home. Please, viewers, please tell me I'm wrong. Please explain what that means, because that's pretty much what I read. And like I said, how many teenagers want to be controlled? How many teenagers wants to be all the time supervised and all that? And he says that it is untested and unknown environment. It's an unknown environment for the Medway, but the child was in a synagogue all the time when he was with the father. So who's making these statements? Obviously, it's not the child. It's a flat out lie. It's not the child who's making these statements. And father ranted and shouted in a highly agitated state on several occasions. What did he say? What did he say? You have broken UN Convention. You have broken UN Convention. Can you imagine what huge crime this father has done? I have to address to the Eugene son. I'll call you JJ, like I said. You need to know that your father loves you and he will fight for you. Imagine a mosquito fighting an elephant. That's pretty much the image of your father fighting with the system. But he is fighting every single possible way that he can do. And protest is one of the very few ways that he can fight. So if they're going to try to convince you, so you would convince him to stop protesting, don't fall for it. Don't fall for it, because that's exactly what they're trying to do, to shut your father's mouth up so you will stay in the care for as long as possible. It's not there. I'm really sorry to tell you this, but they're not looking for your best interest. They're looking for their best interest. This is not how people function. This is not how things should be handled. But I'm sorry. This is what's happening to you. They're using and abusing you. And my heart goes for you. I want you to know that your father and you have many, many supporters. There are thousands, and I'm not exaggerating. There are thousands of people who are supporting you all over the earth, all over the globe. I'm telling you, there's so many of us that are getting to learn about your situation and the tyranny that is happening to you. You are such a brilliant child, and I have to say this: everything that they're going to ask you to say or write against your father, this is only going to hurt you and hurt your father, because this is what they're trying to do. The only thing that your father did, quote unquote, wrong is to provide your rights. You have the right to have an attorney. You have the right to stay in front of the judge and state your opinion. And don't do what anyone is saying. Not even what I'm saying to you, okay? You make up your mind what you want to do. Whether you want to go to your father or not, or whether you want to continue stay there. But you have to state that to the judge, because what they're doing, they're trying to prevent you. You have the right to talk in Russian, which they're not letting you. You have the right to go to the synagogue. You have the right. It's your right. Don't let them take your right, because if you keep your mouth shut, they're not going to come and say, hey, you know what? I'm sorry. We've been wrong. First time, we've been wrong. Second time, we've been wrong all the time, constantly. But now we're going to let you go to the synagogue. No, they're not. They're going to keep you supervised at all times. Now, don't get me wrong. It's a good thing for someone to take care of you, but not in the way that what they're doing. And for those of you that work for Medway Council or in connection with Medway Council work, whether you're a doctor or a judge, please read the UNCRC and follow those laws, follow those guidance, because what you're doing is not. I am so frustrated to see judges, and it's not just one, there are multiple judges that have covering up one after another. Look, don't take me wrong. I am a law-abiding citizen. I respect every single person. But it's so heartbreaking to see that people who should make justice, they're accomplice to more injustice. This is a child that you're ruining. For what? For making more money? For making more connections? Please stop this cruelty. You need to follow the law. This is what you need to do. You need to follow the law, and you need to let this child read his rights. He's old enough. He's very mature for his age, and you should let him watch and read his rights. And not only that, but you should allow him to return home. I'm sure he longs for that. His father loves him. By what I'm reading, the child loves the father. It's so clear to me. There is no doubt. There is no doubt that the child does not love the father, because hey, he could make up something to say something against the father. No, he'd never said anything negative. So that's telling me that the child loves the father. and the child longs to be back with the father. So release the child now and let him go home now.